Lots of use of the word collaboration. What does it mean? But more importantly for this podcast, what doesn't it mean? I'll tell you my opinion in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That is without a doubt that it is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast. You can find wherever you get your podcast, whether you're watching or listening. Make sure you tap into that location each and every day so you do not miss an episode. I want to give a special shout out and thank you to the everydayers for watching us. And if it's your first time watching, I hope I give you a reason to come back. So we're going to get right into it. We're not going to wait. Day one of the combine has gone on. You guys have heard ad nauseum probably a lot of the words that have been expressed from the GM James Gladstone, the coach Liam Cohen, and then the opinions of everybody else. And we're starting to get it filled up real quick here, especially on my timeline, with a lot of people using the catchphrases and the words and all of the things and trying to put it all together and figure out what it is. So we're going to try to do it together here. And I'm going to give you my spiel on it. We're going to end up talking about it's okay to move on. Sometimes I listen to people and they interact with me and they want to keep everybody. You might as well have just kept Trent Baalke if you want to keep all of his players and just resign yourself to believe that Doug Peterson and Press Taylor and Ryan Nielsen and Mike Caldwell and Urban Meyer and all of those people were the problem, since all of the players are so good and everybody wants to keep them. Someone's got to go. We're going to talk how these people on this particular staff are not somehow attached to people that are about to be free agents or people who were signed where it makes a whole bunch of sense for them to move on. It's not that all of those guys are bad people. We're going to make sure you guys understand that to the fullest also. But first, we're going to start with collaboration. And the reason why is a lot of times I do get my motivation from some very, very smart people that ask questions like, well, who has the last say or who has the first say? And it's a combination of everything, even in collaboration, even in a committee, even when there's a whole bunch of people or maybe just 3 or 4 people involved in a decision. At some point, if things get really, really contentious, there's going to be a tiebreaker. There's going to be somebody that ultimately has to put things on them. In this situation, I would say that person is going to be Liam Cohen, but I have to say this first. And this doesn't mean that Liam will be the one to say, no, this is what I want to do. But I think in this situation, because you've heard Tony Boselli and you've heard James Gladstone talk about bringing Liam's vision to life, right? Making whatever he wants to do in his image, and I'm paraphrasing a lot of this, but they're going to take what he wants and find a way to get it done, from their perspective. So I'll say this. This is something I said this morning on Locked On NFL. Football coaches in the NFL barely watch college football tape. In fact, I'm talking about during the season, from the time that the college football games start, which is around Labor Day or maybe a week prior to that, NFL coaches are starting their season, their training camp. They're talking about camp. They're talking about all these other things. They're talking about their own roster. They're talking about things that they need to do. They're coaching each other. They're at that facility maybe 18, sometimes 20 hours a day. Joe Gibbs used to sleep in his office. He had a mattress under his desk. All right. They are totally myopically focused on what they have to do. Their job depends on it. It's I know a lot of people saying it's just football stupid and all of that stuff, but when you're competing, you're looking for every single edge, every single thing, everything. There's no stone left unturned. I know a lot of y'all think that maybe a whole bunch of stones were left unturned here over the last couple of years, but even with the people that you think didn't do a good job, they were at it for hours and hours a day. The last thing they're worried about is somebody that's at fall practice in college. The last thing they're worried about is some edge rusher at Marshall. The last thing they're worried about is who the slot receiver is at Iowa State. They are coaching their football team and trying to figure out a way for their football team to win. Even the teams that win and lose, it's the same thing. And we think sometimes that the the difference is so big and between the worst and the best teams that other teams, the teams that aren't playing real well are not winning, like their coaches aren't working hard. That is not true. So by that assessment alone, coaches in the NFL don't start thinking about college players until their season ended, which means Philly and the Chiefs, they didn't start thinking about college players until 2 weeks ago. If you think for 1 minute that those teams would allow people who haven't watched the entire time to come into the scouting department and tell people that's all they've been doing all year long, well, I want him, I want him, I want him, I want him. That's not the way it works, and that's not the kind of collaboration I'm talking about. And when I say Liam Cohen has the last word, I almost mean by default, because he hasn't been watching those guys. He's getting his first look at them right now. They are bringing them tape of a bunch of people, right? He may have a good experience because he was in college over the last, in the last 5 years, he's made 2 stops in the SEC, and he's seen a lot of these players because a lot of them had a COVID year. Therefore, he may have an idea about players that he's either coached or coached against. That's a little bit different than most NFL coaches. So in terms of the collaboration, remember, even if he doesn't have the last word, he has the last say, because both of the other guys are building it based on his imagination, what his feeling is for the team, his pulse on the locker room. So therefore, that is what makes them coach-centric. So there's a lot of people out there with these gotcha moments saying, yeah, coach-centric, my boy. No, that is what makes them coach-centric, because even Gladstone and Boselli are building this based on the coach. That's why hiring the coach was so important first. And now you have this collaboration. The main thing that I want to take out of all of this is there were a lot of people last year asking me, wait, man, is it really that bad? Yeah, it's that bad. It's not that people were walking around complaining about it. You can tell. And then you talk to certain people and they don't say it. But this is where having a brain and being someone, that's been around this long enough, you could read between the tea leaves that people weren't listening to each other, that folks were on different pages. This didn't just start with Trent Baalke, and this didn't start with Urban Meyer. I want to harken y'all back to, I love Tom Coughlin, but do y'all remember when Doug Marrone, Tom Coughlin, and Dave Caldwell were all in charge, and it was 3 people, and they were all independently reporting to Shad Khan? Do you remember that? And do you remember when the Jalen Ramsey thing happened? And you remember for a long time, everybody thought it was one thing and it was another. And Marrone sat there and told us in a press conference, no, I ain't got no problem with Jalen. Maybe the people that have a problem with him need to come down here and talk to you. You remember that kind of stuff? This has been going on a long time. So I always used to blame Shad for that. It's because they're acting that way and they're doing it like that. It's because this is how you have it set up. And then guys aren't in line and they aren't in step with each other. Everybody had a different reason when they came to the table to be at the table. They can't do that. There has to be one reason, and it has to start somewhere. This is going to start with the vision of the coach. They went and got a GM that understands that, and then they got somebody else in Boselli that understands it all because he thinks the same way that they do, and he's close to Shad. Now, this is where this thing will work better, okay? So this is never about one person. Me not wanting them to keep Baalke was never really about him. It was about Shad. That is why I always thought, whether it's y'all getting on press and I'm saying, nope, blame Doug. And when you blaming just Baalke, I said, nope, you got to blame Shad because you allow it to happen. Thank God he is not allowing it to happen anymore. In fact, at some point during this process, he saw not only could he not keep letting that happen, because we don't want to be somebody that just tries to fix problems. We want to be people that look for solutions. It wasn't that I just can't keep letting that happen. It's like everybody keeps talking about this as this thing that I need to do. Therefore, I need to do that. And whatever I have to do that is what I'll do. And part of doing that is getting rid of this. So that is my opinion on how this is all going to shape out and why I think it's going to work to a T. It's not about, well, who's making the final decision, because that goes back to the same thing that it was before, right? And that works. Howie Roseman is probably the dude that's going to make the decision for the most part in Philadelphia about everything. You've seen them. They can win Super Bowls with whoever they want to get to coach that team, right? But it doesn't mean that the way that works for them is the way that that's going to work for Jacksonville. I like the way the Jaguars are doing it. If you got any questions about it, Les Snead is a bigger-than-life figure with the Rams organization. Who do y'all think about all the time when you watch the Rams? You don't think about Les Snead. You think about Sean McVay. That is the perfect thing that I'm talking about right now. When he can be a larger-than-life figure, he can be a person that builds and stretches perspectives together. But when you look at that team and when you think about the Rams, you think about Sean McVay and his coaches and the players. That is what I think Jacksonville is headed towards, and I'll discuss that more in just a second. Someone's got to go. What do I mean by that? There's a lot of good players on this team, but I think people are making a mistake. They're thinking that somebody or all of these new guys on the staff, like they have to look at all of those dudes like they belong to them, and that's not true. We'll talk about that more here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, segment 2 here on Locked On Jaguars. Listen, not everyone is in the same boat. So if this doesn't apply, just let it fly, all right? But I'm getting a lot of people that haven't let go. And this is where it gets a little dicey for me because everybody's all nice to each other right now. And I love when everybody's all nice to each other, right? But there's still times where you have to stay into the moment and you have to do what I do. And what I do is just try to always make people smarter. And I'll make you smarter at a funeral or I'll make you smarter at a party. It does not matter to me, but right is right and wrong is wrong. I have used terms like Stockholm Syndrome. I have used terms like baggage. I have used all of those terms in the past to describe Jaguar fans as a way of giving them an excuse and a reason to yell on people, include myself, right? Well, now I got to break you out of it. Right in the middle of the party, I'm like the dude that grabs the turntable and pulls that little arm across the vinyl, and it goes right now while the party's going. I need everyone to tap in and listen. The Jacksonville Jaguars as an organization was a mess. Even by being a mess, though, they were able to lose more one-score games than anybody else in the National Football League last year. So that would lead you to think, well, it ain't that bad. We're close. When you lose 13 games and you lose most of them, like 10 of them by one score, if you want to say that that's close, that's fine with me, but I'm not going to agree with it. You're far away. You're far away. You just happen to kind of do the same thing all the time and get the same result, even if you're doing it in a different way. But you're far away. There's no difference to me if you lose 10 games by one score or if you lose 10 games by 2 scores. You lost them all the same way and you haven't figured out a way to win. This isn't about win, losses, ties, and almost. It's about wins and losses. The team that plays the most consistently good most of the time has a chance to win more games than they lose. The team that does that has a way of doing business, right? And their way of doing business is their way of doing business. It does not include keeping a whole bunch of remnants from yesterday. And this is not to say that I think that everybody who's played for the Jaguars over the last 2 years needs to get cut, because I know a lot of people. I got some people on my timeline, man. They'll sit there and tell you all day long that if you say one thing, that they'll take it and stretch it, that you're just saying, oh, Wig wants to cut everybody. No, I don't want to cut everybody. I don't. But you make me think y'all wanted to keep Trent Baalke when I had somebody tell me the other day that they need to keep number 15, Jones. I had somebody actually argue with me the other day that they need to definitely keep Cisco. And I said last week that I wouldn't be surprised if they took a look at that. They are going to take a look at everything. If a player is a free agent and they like him, they should keep him. If he's not a free agent, then put him in. Well, if he is a free agent, put him in the bag. If you don't like him, put him in a bag with everybody else and take the best player available. maybe it's not even the player that one of y'all used to coach. Everybody keeps saying Javon Holland, and that's obvious. And I said it too, because that's kind of the thinking that you have to have when you have no idea what these guys are doing. But the one thing that kills me is to think that they won't look at Trayvon Merrick and say, no, we'd rather have him than Holland. Or that they won't look at Justin Reed from Kansas City and say, no, we want him over him. So if they'll even do that, like pick a player over a guy that they're familiar with, and Anthony Campanile is familiar with Javon Holland, what makes you think they won't look at Andre Cisco the same way? Just because he's here and was under contract until all of this time, he's not under contract anymore. The league year just hasn't opened. He's a free agent. Now, you can keep him off the market. Do you want to? That would be an independent decision based on tape and based on scheme. It's not going to be just because he was already here. And I need y'all to get out of that a little bit. I really, really, really do. None of us knows what any of these dudes are thinking about, how they're going to play, what their scheme is, other than the things that they've told you. But yet and still, everyone wants to all of a sudden put Brenton Strange on the all-pro team. How do you know that? How do you know they like Walker Little? I don't know that they don't. But if I don't know that they do, you certainly don't know that they do either. So my thing is someone's got to go. When they come in, they're going to make changes, not just because they're just going through with a red pen saying, nope, not him, nope, not him, nope, not him. No, what they're looking for, and this is what I juxtapose, and I came up with this based on listening to them. What they're looking for is, yep. They have a blue check mark. They're checking all of the things that they know that they want and they can use to make this thing work the way they want it to work. They're not going through looking at all of the other guys and just marking off people, especially dudes that are no longer under contract. They're not evaluating this based on looking through the lens, and that's one of the words that James Gladstone has used. They're not looking through the lens of Trent Baalke. I told y'all they're not coming in here, walking into this man's kitchen saying, what do you need help with? Let's make this better. What's that show where the dude comes in, bar something, where the dude goes into a bar and tells them all the stuff, all the crap they're doing wrong? That's not what they're doing. Bar rescue. They're not trying to fix Baalke's stuff. They're coming in to cook their own dish. They're not seeing what's salvable or what do they have. No, baby, they got Instacart. They got a whole grocery list and a whole bag full of money to go buy their own ingredients. Some things they want to keep because you can't turn a roster completely over, and some things deserve to be kept. But all the talk about Christian Kirk and $24 million and this, you heard those people yesterday, they running their passing game through Brian Thomas Jr. You know what they want? They want another Brian Thomas Jr. That's what they want. They ain't going to sit here and just hold on to people just for connectivity or hold on to people just because fans like them. That's just not the way this works. They're not going to change everything. Now, some things they might be stuck with. I don't know if I'll look at Gabe Davis as somebody they're stuck with because I don't know how they felt about Gabe Davis when he played in Buffalo. I don't know how they feel about Gabe Davis in their system. I do know this. They like wide receivers that know how to block. I do know when y'all talk about Evan Ingram, he don't block very well, and everybody's going to block in this system. I do know that everybody keeps trying to figure out how they can use. Why would you get rid of Evan Ingram? Everybody wants to make Evan Ingram a slot. I'm hearing that replace Trayvon going to defensive tackle. Everybody wants to make him a slot. Why do you think it is incumbent on them to figure out ways to use players on the team that just won 4 games? It's inevitable that they're going to do it, but y'all taking it too far. Sometimes somebody got to go and y'all don't realize it, man. And it might be people that y'all really, really like. Or maybe they have their eyes on somebody else. If they have their eyes on a guy that's a little bit better and it only costs them a little bit of dead cap space and then they can go get that other dude, that's what they'll do. Case in point, Darnell Savage was a free agent. Green Bay didn't keep him. They spent twice as much money and went out and got Xavier McKinney. You don't have to keep players that are just okay. You don't have to keep players just because, well, he's pretty good. But what if you could get better? And that's what they did. That kid made the all-pro team. That's what you have to start thinking, man. Y'all got to start thinking bigger and stop worrying about. Y'all figure y'all just going to add, well, we'll add 5 or 6 players in the draft that's going to start, maybe 5 or 6 free agents. But then we got to keep all these other dudes. Y'all act like the only people they cutting a whole bunch of dudes on special teams. It doesn't work like that. It's okay to move on, and I'll tell you why here in just a second on Locked On Jaguars. Today's episode of Today's episode of Locked On Jaguars is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. That is right. There it is. I finally got it up on the screen. FanDuel. When the game tips off like last night, Dallas and the Lakers, it was good NBA action. Man, there's no better place to get on that than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you missed the opening tip, you can still bet in the fourth quarter on a comeback, or maybe you're looking for a dude that's going to hit a bigger three. And if you're in the game for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm looking for that late guy to hit that big three-pointer or a team to make a push last night like Memphis did. I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Moving right along here. Third segment here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, man, I'm going to stop yelling a little bit. It's okay to move on. It's all right to move on. What do I mean by that? Some people are going to be let go from this team, and y'all just got to say goodbye to them and thank them for everything and just move on. Y'all, we got to be like those Laker fans was with AD last night. All right, man. You was a good player. Man, one of the all-time greats. Top 75 player, won us a championship, all-NBA first team. Love you to death. But we got Luka now. You see how easy that was? And maybe that's something that y'all can do here in Jacksonville. If they move on from Christian Kirk, or if they move on from Evan Ingram and they end up with somebody better, if they say Britton Strange, yeah, we like you as a part of it, but you know what? We're going to get this little young dynamic tight end in the draft that's going to be able to be an all-pro, then you know what? That's kind of okay. See, none of those guys I just mentioned, whether it's Cisco, whether it's Britton Strange, whether it's, I got a good one, Walker Little, that's one of them, right? Mitch, none of these dudes are good. Devon Hamilton, Devin Lloyd, ain't none of those dudes good enough for you to stop them from going and getting somebody else that's better, that's going to help you win. Y'all got to beat Philly, and y'all got to beat Kansas City, and y'all got to beat Washington, and you got to beat Buffalo. What do you think you're going to do to beat those teams? Keep all of the dudes that's just okay, that's making a whole bunch of money, and they're just okay. You're going to walk up there with Eric Armstead. You think it's just a scheme change. If it's just a scheme change, then why did y'all fire or want Trent Baalke fired so bad? I just don't get it. It's almost like an oxymoron way of thinking. Like, it's like, what are y'all talking about? It's okay to move on. Some of these players are good players. You just had to move on. Ain't nothing wrong with moving on, man. Nothing wrong with moving on whatsoever. Teams move on all the time from guys, and they still continue to win championships. It happens. Minnesota moved on from Kirk Cousins. Well, he was hurt, but that still, you get my point. You look at guys every year. They move on from their team. Green Bay moved on from Aaron Jones. They went and got Josh Jacobs. It's okay. It's all right. Especially when there's a coaching change. It's all right, man. This team once got rid of Fred Taylor, and he was still okay. I mean, they went and got Maurice Jones-Drew while they still had Fred Taylor, and they were lethal together. It's all right, man. Sometimes you just got to go out and just start over. I hope none of y'all married somebody who's been married before, because you stepping in there. Okay, what didn't Joe do that I'll do everything? I'll do all the things your man won't do. You know, that's a player hater. Don't worry about what he did. Just do you. What are you thinking about? Come on, man. That's not what they're here for. They're here to be objective, look at it, start completely over if they have to. They don't, and they know that. They're going to build it around Trevor. They're going to build it, they're going to run through Brian Thomas Jr. They're going to fix that line, even if it means some guys like Ezra Cleveland that everybody loves so much. I'm not saying that they're going to remove Ezra. I'm not saying they're going to go past Ezra. The Jaguars cut Ben Barch, and Ben Barch just got extended by the 49ers. Here's a news flash for you. Sometimes things just work out better in another place because what they're doing doesn't really match up with your skill set. Now, that's not the same thing as not being able to adapt when you have good players. Everybody adapts. It's players over plays, right? But even to that extent, there are some people that still might be a better fit doing something else. Think about what James Gladstone said. We're going to bring guys in that are tangibly rich and allow them to do nothing more than be themselves. That means just like they're aligned in the front office, they have to be aligned with scheme, type, talent, mission. That when the guy comes to work, it's not even like he's at work. You feel me? When you come to work, when I was 34 years as a barber, most of the time I went to work, I didn't feel like I was going to work. I felt like it was showtime. They're there to see me. People are coming to me to get their grooming services done and to talk and hear the atmosphere in the barbershop. It was work that didn't feel like work, but I still took pride in it. It's the same thing with building this team, man. They're coming to work and they want guys to come in and be the best part of themselves. Now, does that mean I felt that way in every barbershop that I went to? No, I did not. I had to find the ones that were right for me, that were conducive for me to do the talented things that I was able to do. And I'm not just talking about haircuts. I'm talking about to exist. So when I say, why y'all want to hold on to him? I'm not saying that they're bad players or bad people, but what I am saying is it has to be something more to that than your fandom and your familiarity. It's okay to move on. If teams move on from guys that win a lot, if teams that win a lot move on from guys, y'all can damn sure move on from dudes that haven't won a whole bunch. If not, find out what Trent Baalke's doing tomorrow, and y'all go hang out with him while the team gets built in. Because I'm just losing my mind trying to figure out why everybody wants to keep everybody, but they want to fire him so bad. All right, man. Y'all don't fire me. I love y'all to death. I'm just trying to help you. I'm trying to help you open your eyes to what this new stuff is. And sometimes it's like y'all got dilated. It's like your eyes got dilated. You can't see outside. But guess what? Put some shades on, man. And that's right. If you got to put shades on to listen to this, then so be it. Y'all check me out on Locked On NFL too. We talk about this. I did a show today called The Real Reason of the Combine. A lot of people don't realize the combine was actually started because of medicals. It had nothing to do with 40 times. Fans and GMs and all of that, they look at it a different way. You get stuff like that over on Locked On NFL. Tyler Rowland early in the morning, double shot of Locked On NFL. I'll come through in the barbershop at about 2 o'clock each and every day, and you get the use of local experts. David Harrison was on today, and he's from the combine, and we talked about a lot of issues that are going on up there. Make sure you tap into Locked On NFL wherever you get your podcast twice a day. All right, man, y'all take care. Love y'all to death, man. We'll see you as we continue to build this thing we call the Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll see you next time.